Good morning, Year 8. I hope you're well and having a lovely day. Please do write the date and the title, Christmas at the Cratchits. Make sure you get the apostrophe in the right place. Okay, so for your do now, I would like you to consider how the way you celebrate the season might be different from Victorian times. Over 100 years ago, how do you imagine people celebrated Christmas? What might be the differences between a rich household and a relatively poor one? So, as we've discussed before, there was quite a significant divide between the wealthy and the poor. How might this have impacted their celebration of Christmas? Pause the video for 5 minutes to complete your do now. So, for this lesson, you'll need a pencil, a pen, and a highlighter, your exercise book, and a PDF copy of Christmas with the Cratchits. Okay, so before Queen Victoria's reign started in 1837, nobody in Britain had heard of Santa Claus or Christmas crackers. No Christmas cards were sent, and most people did not have holidays from work. The wealth and technologies generated by the Industrial Revolution of the Victorian era changed the face of Christmas forever. In the beginning of Queen Victoria's reign, toys were handcrafted and expensive. Only the rich could afford these toys. The factories, however, made a mass production of toys more affordable to the middle class. In a poor child's stocking, which became popular around 1870, only an apple, orange, and a few nuts could be found. When Victoria came into power, chicken and turkey were too high a price for most to enjoy. Working class people would make do with a rabbit, but on Christmas Day, Queen Victoria and her family in 1840 had beef and a royal roast swan. By the end of the century, most families had turkey for their Christmas dinner. So for your first task, I would like you to read the attached extract very carefully, ready to complete today's lesson. So please pause the video for 15 minutes to read that extract very carefully. Okay, so meet the Cratchits, examining the family. Then up rose Mrs. Cratchit, Cratchit's wife, dressed out but poorly in a twice-turned gown, but brave in ribbons which are cheap and make a goodly show for sixpence. And she laid the cloth, assisted by Belinda Cratchit, second of her daughters, also brave in ribbons, while Master Peter Cratchit plunged a fork into the saucepan of potatoes, and getting the corners of his monstrous shirt collar, Bob's private property, conferred upon his son and heir in honour of the day, into his mouth, rejoiced to find himself so gallantly attired, and yearned to show his linen in the fashionable parks. And now two smaller Cratchits, boy and girl, came tearing in, screaming that outside the baker's they had smelt the goose and known it for their own, and basking in luxurious thoughts of sage and onion, these young Cratchits danced about the table, and exalted Master Peter Cratchit to the skies, while he, not proud, although his collars nearly choked him, blew the fire until the slow potatoes bubbled up, knocked loudly at the saucepan lid to be let out and peeled. "Whatever has got your precious father, then?" said Mrs. Cratchit. "And your brother, Tiny Tim? And Martha weren't as late last Christmas Day by half an hour." "Here's Martha, mother," said a girl, appearing as she spoke. "Here's Martha, mother," cried the two young Cratchits. "Hurrah! There's such a goose, Martha." So for your next task, what do you learn about the Cratchit family from this extract? Bullet point your ideas. Pause the video for 5 minutes to do this. So you may have written, Mrs. Cratchit is wearing a dress that has been turned twice, meaning the fabric has been remade into a new model of the dress twice, indicating she is very poor. There are many children. Peter Cratchit is wearing his father's shirt for Christmas. Martha arrived at the house earlier last year, and so is living away from the family. So from this we learn that despite their poverty, the Cratchits are a very close family who celebrate Christmas by spending time together. Ironically, they are much happier than Scrooge is at Christmas, and have a much happier time than he does, despite his wealth, as he has pushed away everyone that loved or cared about him. Your extract is taken from Stave 3 of A Christmas Carol. The second spirit, the ghost of Christmas Present, shows Scrooge how his clerk, Bob Cratchit, and his family are celebrating Christmas in poverty. The Cratchit family represent the poor in A Christmas Carol. Although Bob has a job working for Scrooge, he earns very little, and not enough to pay for the medical treatment Tiny Tim needs. Scrooge is meant to learn a lesson by looking at a family enjoying themselves despite their situation. So for your next task, what are the lessons he is supposed to learn? Why do you think Dickens includes this in his novel? Can you make links to any contextual information? So think back to the information we know about Dickens. Why do you think he's talking about the poverty of the Cratchit family, comparing it to Scrooge as well? Pause the video for 5 minutes to answer those questions. So we have a short extract that further demonstrates how Scrooge is changing. Spirit, said Scrooge with an interest he had never felt before, tell me if Tiny Tim will live. I see a vacant seat, replied the ghost, in the poor chimney corner, and a crotch without an owner, carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die. No, no, said Scrooge. Oh, no, kind spirit, say he will be spared. So in terms of lessons he's learnt, you may have written humility, responsibility, and sympathy. All are valid lessons for Scrooge to learn by showing Scrooge the consequences of not caring for others, especially Bob as his employee. Dickens is also forcing the reader to confront their own behaviour and how they treat others. As we've talked about before, Dickens felt very strongly that Victorian society ignored the poverty of its underclass. On the one hand were the rich, who enjoyed comfort and feasting at Christmas, yet on the other were children forced to live in dreadful conditions in the workhouses. He uses Scrooge's slow realization of how he has behaved in the hope that others will do the same. So let's look at this short extract again. No, no, said Scrooge. Oh, no, kind spirit, say he will be spared. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, none other of my race, returned the ghost, will find him here. What then? If he be like to die, ye had better do it, and decrease your surplus population. Scrooge hung his head to hear his own words, quoted by the spirit, and was overcome with penitence and grief. So penitence is when you feel sorry that you've done something bad. So, using the short extract above to respond to the following question. How does Dickens show that Scrooge is changing? Spend 10 minutes doing this now. Okay, so you may have referred to the word penitence, showing that Scrooge is full of sorrow and regret at his previous lack of sympathy. So sympathy is showing kindness to others. Grief, showing that he is deeply upset by his former actions. Reaction of Scrooge hanging his head to show deep shame, and Scrooge begging the spirit, emphasizing his desperation that Tiny Tim survives. No, 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 kind spirit, say he will be spared. So you got the repetition of the no as well, showing that he cannot stand the idea that Tiny Tim will die. So this empathy and sympathy greatly contrasting with his cold and unfeeling demeanour at the beginning of the novel. Okay, so that's the end of today's lesson. I hope you found it interesting. Thank you very much for your hard work, and I will see you next time.